like one who takes away a garment in cold weather, and like vinegar on soda, is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share together from Proverbs chapter 25, verse 20. The subject is singing songs, and when we have a heavy heart, we can sometimes lift our spirits by singing songs of hope and joy in the Lord. But often the world's songs are trivial songs. They do not address the issues of the heart. So we have two analogies that are drawn, like one who takes away a garment in cold weather. In cold weather, you need your garment to keep you warm, and if somebody takes it from you, it does not help, but aggravates the problem. Vinegar on soda. Vinegar is acidic, soda is alkaline. So they react together, and you get a violent reaction. They are not in sympathy with one another. So to sing songs to a heavy heart is not addressing the issue of the heart. Consider the occasion recorded for us in John chapter 11. The two sisters, Mary and Martha, had a heavy heart because their brother Lazarus was sick. And so they sent a message, "Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick." Now Jesus was quite some distance away because of the opposition from the Jews who wanted to kill him. He needed to keep himself safe. But Jesus said to his disciples, "This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it." He sees that God has a good purpose in this sickness that has come upon his friend Lazarus, because he loves Martha and her sister Mary and Lazarus. Because he loves them, he waits 2 more days before he acts. Then he says to his disciples, "Let's go to Judea again." The disciples say, "Lately the Jews sought to stone you, and are you going back there?" But Jesus responded, "Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of the world." He knows that his time on earth is drawing to a close, but he also knows that the end of that day will be Passover, and not a minute before. God's program will be fulfilled to the moment. So he is the light of the world. He can still walk in the light until the time he needs to go to the Father. So he declared, "Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go to wake him up." The disciples, thinking sleep means sleep, said, "Well, if he's sleeping, he'll be well." But Jesus spoke of his death, and so explained, "Lazarus is dead, and I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him." It would have been very difficult for Jesus just to be there when Lazarus died, because everyone would have expected him to do something immediately. But because he was away, he had an excuse not to do something immediately. But he was going to do something. Thomas, called the twin, said, "Let's go with him. We'll die with him there." And so they proceeded. It evidently took about 4 days for them to walk the distance they had to go from north of Galilee to Jerusalem. And when they arrived, he'd been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany's near Jerusalem, 2 miles, 3 kilometres. Many of the Jews knew of the family. They were a godly family. They were a family who were loved, and they'd come out to comfort Mary and Martha. So there was quite some crowd there, even 4 days after the funeral. Martha heard that Jesus was coming and went out to meet him outside the city, for Jesus was not drawing attention to himself. And her immediate reaction, because of the heavy heart that she has, was, "Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you." She knows that Jesus could have kept Lazarus alive. It doesn't dawn on her that he could raise him from the dead. But she has confidence in God. She expresses her confidence in God even though she doesn't understand what's happening. Her hope is in God. And Jesus affirms, "Your brother will rise again." To which she says, "Yes, I know he'll rise again at the resurrection at the last day." But Lazarus, Mary and Martha recognized that Jesus was the Messiah and that he was about to establish his kingdom. And so foremost in their mind is that Lazarus will not participate in the kingdom because he is dead. When we believe in God, we believe in the resurrection because God lives forever and those who die will rise again. It's been the expectation of the saints throughout the Old Testament, even though many theologians wonder and doubt about it. It's plain in the Scriptures. So Martha said, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day." Many Christians just have a vague idea of resurrection, as is expressed here by Martha, the resurrection at the last day. But in fact, God has much more program than that in line, which is revealed in other scriptures. So Jesus says, "I'm the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. Whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?" To which he said, "Yes, Lord. I believe you are the Christ, the Son of God. You're the one who is to come into the world." I'm sure she doesn't understand what Jesus is saying, other than, yes, he is the one who will bring Lazarus back to life. Martha sends a message back to Mary for her to come out and meet Jesus also. And many of the women who are seeking to comfort her come out with her, thinking she's going to the tomb. But she comes to Jesus and she says the same thing, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." She too has a heavy heart, but her heart will be heavier when the Lord Jesus himself dies. Jesus saw her weeping and how upset the other women were who were with her, and says, "Where have you laid him?" Jesus wept, and those with Mary say, "See how he loved him. Could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind also have kept this man from dying?" They have that expectation that Jesus could have done something. Why didn't he come earlier and save this man? Jesus, groaning in himself, as he sees these heavy hearts, his response is not to sing songs and trivialize the matter, but he groans in himself. He's weeping with those who are weeping, and declares, "Take away the stone." Martha reacts, "Lord, he's been dead 4 days." But Jesus says, "Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God?" So they took the stone away, and Jesus gives thanks to God. "Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me. But because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me." Jesus had obviously prayed for his friends, and the Lord had given him this sign to give them hope, even when he himself would die. And so he calls out, "Lazarus, come forth." This is the end of the matter. When we have a heavy heart, we cannot solve the problem ourselves, but we can trust in God, who raises the dead. Lazarus came forth, and Jesus said, "Loose him and let him go."